In the United States, there are 1.6 to 3 million concussions each year just in sports. And this doesn't even take account into car accidents and falls. There are several misconceptions about concussions, especially when you are unsure if you have one, thinking that you have to lose consciousness in order to have one, but that is not always the case. Throughout all of this, there's a poor consensus in the medical field about how to identify and treat concussions across all ages, and because of this, there's not a concrete definition of what a concussion is. However, we define a concussion as a distinct element of a traumatic brain injury. It is caused by a biomechanical injury to the brain that is either a direct or indirect blow to the head, which causes a transient neurological dysfunction of the central nervous system. Even though each concussion is unique, there are some examples of some symptoms that they can range from, and it can be headache, fatigue, poor balance, slurred speech, confusion, nausea, and sleep disturbances, and there are plenty of other ones. However, they can come as a group or in different forms, and each concussion is very unique. There are two common forms of concussion, and both that happen from different mechanisms. The first being what people traditionally think of a concussion, where the brain comes in contact with the skull, resulting in swelling, hemorrhaging, and the loss of function. And the second is when the brain shifts forward and causes strain on the axons within the brainstem, which results in loss of function and damage, which can often present different concussive symptoms. So, this is obviously something that happens quite often, especially from the 1.6 to 3 million mentioned earlier, and there still needs to be better tools in order to manage and understand these types of injuries. People need to be more educated on what a concussion and the symptoms that are present following one, as well as there needs to be further research in this field.
Because so many openings in the field of how to manage concussions, we opted to examine the nutritional facts surrounding athletes. Because concussions are so spur of the moment, there are not a lot of baseline testing and biomarkers. This is an area of the field that is not as popular as the technologically based methods that are currently available. It would have been difficult to test diets that help prevent concussions, so instead we decided to focus on recovery of concussive symptoms through nutrition, and we decided to test patients post-injury and prescribe various supplemental regimens. After reviewing scientific articles, we found that there were certain molecules and metabolites that became lowered in concentrations after concussion. We noticed that there was a decrease in branched chain amino acids and that have been associated with enhancing cognitive recovery in the patients. The most prominent being leucine, valine, and isoleucine. They have been found to aid in central nervous system protein synthesis. Fatty acids that appear to decrease in concentration post-injury are docosahexaenoic acid and icosapentaenoic acid. Both help stabilize membranes as well as neurotransmitter vesicles. Finally, we found that neurons undergo oxidative stress after concussion, and therefore we described the antioxidant resveratrol. Because the effects of concussion affect many different aspects of brain function, we also included a combination group which we believe will produce the best results.
Participant selection will occur following an incident in an NCAA sports game specific to the SEC resulting in a concussion. The sports eligible for participation selection include football, men and women's soccer, men and women's lacrosse, and men and women's basketball. The participants will be selected based on IRB approval. The concussion is diagnosed following NCAA protocol. Following a concussion diagnosis, individuals will be contacted by a coordinator and become eligible to participate in the study. Following a participant's concussion diagnosis and cooperation in the study, he or she will be referred to our research team. The research team is responsible for acquiring all demographic information, post-injury SCAT3 testing, and blood draws the following day. The participant will be issued all required supplementation for the study from a third party to ensure double-blind results. After the 10-day period, participants will return for a final blood draw and repeated SCAT3 testing, as well as MACE testing. The MACE test includes a cognitive exam used by the U.S. military, which we elected to use in our study to introduce the participants to a novel concussive test. Blood samples will be taken on day 1 and day 10 of our study in order to analyze blood concentration levels of our administered supplements. Participants will be divided into one of 11 total groups, including a high, moderate, and low dosage group for branched chain amino acids, omega 3 fatty acids, and antioxidants, as well as a combination group administered with the moderate dose of all three supplements, and finally a control group.
As subjects enter the study, they will be assigned a random number in a ledger by a third party. This ledger will have demographic information about each subject, including their age, sex, sport, mechanism of concussion, SCAT-3 scores, and blood tests. All information will be used to test a hypothesis, help develop correlates of concussion, as well as add more data to the growing body of research in this area. As data is received from each subject, it will be entered in this ledger, and results and conclusions will be able to be drawn from it. It is our prediction that the BCAA high-dose subjects, the omega-3 fatty acid moderate-dose subjects, as well as the antioxidant low-dose subjects will have the best results in their respective experimental groups. However, the combination groups will have the best overall results, and the control group receiving placebos will have the least significant results. Conclusions will be made after determining the change in SCAT-3 test scores of each group by comparing day 1 to day 10. A larger improvement, as well as a higher total test score, will correspond to a more significant concussion recovery in subjects. We will also grade recovery by comparing a group's average MACE test scores.
So we hope that this experiment will be able to open the door for other nutritional type aids in recovery in athletes. And we believe that this is a great alternative to the highly technological means of concussive treatment, and as well as a more cost-effective for patients that may not have exposure to these advanced methods.